Did you like that opening? Does it
Well,
represent?
that's a very impressive. I'm jealous. That's a pretty good intro there. Wow.
I basically what I did was I basically reused openings from my previous Trekporeals, and I just simply
Hmm.
changed the font, and I changed the. Obviously, I had to snip your image. I had to snip your image. I wanted to fully represent you and stuff. So, but yeah, that's generally how I do it. I don't know if you recognize it, but that was the Wrath of Khan Starfield. How the
Yeah.
Wrath of Khan begins with the
Yep.
rotating shot and everything. So, hey everybody, welcome to another Nerdporeal Trekporeal episode. This is episode 7 this time, and I'm here with the legend, the member of the Tag family himself, the Commodore Orman Tagge. How you doing? Thanks for coming
I get
on.
to.
Thanks for agreeing to this.
I'm more than happy to, and I get to say this, nerd. But no. Oh, happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me on. It's always a joy. It's always a joy.
Oh, my pleasure. I mean, once again, like the whole point of Trekporeal is for me to have a conversation with another Star Trek fan about their favorite aspect of Star Trek. And I
Hmm.
talked to you about it, and your favorite aspect was either McCoy or
Hmm.
Scotty. So I was
Right.
like, you know what? Let's go with Scotty. So we're doing this. So today we're talking about our top 5 moments in the original series that feature the one and only Lieutenant Commander Montgomery Scott, that guy in the background who's drinking his scotch because that
I.
is a drink of a man.
It is. It is, laddie. The water of life, as they call it in Scotland.
Yeah,
Scotch whiskey. Yeah.
and where I
Single malt.
and if it was vodka, he's like, where I come from, that's soda pop.
Yeah. Vodka. Hmm. I know.
Vodka.
Back in about 1986, I think it was about shortly after Star Trek 4 came out. I mean, I was honored to be able to be at a dinner with Mr. Doohan himself, and I was not too far away. I was actually sitting not too far from him. But I can tell you this: he loves his double scotches. I tell you what, he was just it's like ordering the double scotches left and right. Uh, there was a signing. He was a little meet and greet, so there was a signing. He signed a couple women's breasts. I'm not
Really?
no joke. Yeah, he did. Some women came
Here's
up there and went
Duhan.
like this, and it's like, oh, he was more than happy to. I mean, at that time, all the girls were getting kisses. He was, whatever. Now, I've never told this story. This is the first time I've ever told this story. But yeah, I was part of a Star Trek fan club at the time, and I wasn't at the head of it. But the guy who was Jimmy Doohan went to go to the bathroom, and the person was the head of the club goes, "Oh my God, I got to go in there too." So a couple of us decided, okay, we're going to run interference too. So here we all go into the bathroom. They're at the urinal. Jimmy's in the partition, firing off a photon tube or whatever photon, and I'm sitting in there, and of course he comes out. We're just making talk. He comes out and he says, "Hey, hi, no, don't make a big deal." And there was like the biggest thing. I went to the bathroom with Jimmy doing. It's like, yeah, okay, fine. So it's amazing how crazy fans can be. I can tell you what.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Like I was trying like luckily for me at the last convention I went to, I was pretty I try to be conversational at least, I try to be
Hmm.
conversational, try to be talk within reason about what they could talk about. It's like meeting Andrew Robinson as Garrick was
Hmm.
great. And I loved his attitude. So other thing I gauge is, the attitude of the actors too.
Hmm.
Because if they
Yeah.
have a good attitude, I want to be around them. If they don't, then I don't want to be around. Because to me, they're just people. I mean,
Hmm.
they're on the screen. They make money. They have to put themselves out there because
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, when I went up to get with my girlfriend at the time, and I came up there, and of course he gave her a big smooch on the lips, and I wasn't jealous. It's like, okay, kiss Scotty. Uh, but it's like I was sitting back saying, originally your "up your shaft" was one of my favorite lines, but when you had with there be whales there. He goes, we're having a conversation. He goes, yeah, a lot of the stagehands were going. When I said the line, he said there'd be whales there, and they're all pointing at me because he was he's overweight and implying that he was the whale.
Oh yeah, I can't wait. Yeah, I loved that Up Your Shaft. Like him. I know we're not going into the movies, but I just loved that. Would have been a great moment. In
Mm-hmm.
I would have probably included was Up Your Shaft,
Mm-hmm.
and like him giving he giving Chekhov like the parts. He's like, oh, I took this out. I took this out.
Well,
Here you go. They
gave it
won't.
to Dr. McCoy. From
I
one
gave it to
surgeon
McCoy.
to another.
From once. Yeah, there you go. One surgeon to another. I love that. So.
Mm-hmm.
So, are you ready to talk about top
Yeah,
5 Scotty moments of the
there we go.
original Star
Mm-hmm.
Trek?
There we go. Rock and roll.
All
So
right.
you said you wanted me to go first, and I was
Yeah.
going to go with a little bit more of a serious situation with Scotty because um, Scotty, of course, is known to be in love with the ship, the engine room, all that stuff. But Who Mourns for Adonis was actually one of the first times that he saw him with another woman. And not only that, the situation with Apollo and how he was seducing his girl. And a lot of people don't realize that in the original script, and it didn't get filmed, but she got pregnant from Apollo. So, Scotty having to deal with his girl being uh, seduced and all that, being zapped by this demigod and such, it kind of brought forward something of that serious, give him a bit of a little bit of chops, give him a little bit more character to the character Sky, and that there was more to him. So I thought that was kind of an important episode, even though it wasn't exactly Scotty centered. It was a very important piece of Star Trek lore.
Now, if I remember, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. There we
All
go.
right. Yeah.
Hey.
Hi. Let's get this right. Yeah, I don't know. I think that was my internet.
Ah.
So sorry about that, everybody. Internet's been acting weird lately. The number so Scotty was completely infatuated with her, but I don't think she reciprocated all right. She was just like, oh, Lieutenant
Yeah, I mean,
Palamas.
there was some. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. It was kind of a budding thing, but it wasn't where it was a full fledged relationship.
Yeah,
And
because
obviously,
he was just like waiting to any opportunity to attack Apollo. Apollo was like shooting lightning. Apollo shoots lightning at him, making him fly to the other
mm-hmm.
side. It was one of those
Yep.
episodes where I was like, "Come on, Scott." I'm like, I mean, I get where you're coming from, but I just felt pity for Scotty in this particular episode.
Oh
But
yeah, I mean, I'm
yeah,
not saying.
it was like you said, it was an early episode. I mean, it follows
Mm-hmm.
up in if I remember correctly, Myra he's in love with Myra Romaine in the episode Lights of Zetar from season 3
Mm-hmm.
with the Memory Alpha facility
Right.
and the
Mm-hmm.
Zetarans, the evil Zetarans. So
Evil.
yeah, evil. So
Evil.
yeah, I really thought it was. I really loved Apollo's story in the continues episode. The first I forgot what the first episode's called,
Oh,
but the pilot for continues was the one with Apollo.
yeah.
And I
I've
felt
seen
that
that one.
really got that really redeemed Apollo in this case.
Mm-hmm.
I forget how Chris Duhan approached Scotty in that particular episode. I have to rewatch it, but I think he was kind of because we learned that Palamas is dead and continues.
Mm-hmm.
So from Dr. McKenna, the redhead, the counselor.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just curious. I just the way like Chris Duhan acted made it seem like Scotty was very, very, very like disturbed to see Apollo again and everything. So it was a nice
I
little
would be.
continuation. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. It's been a while since I've seen that. Those were good episodes. He did a good job.
All right, so that's your number. That's your number 5.
There we number
Scotty
5. That's good.
And Who Mourns for Adonis.
Guess it was an early episode. It was something that was actually starting to build the character up.
Okay. Well, my number 5 is actually from this. I'm going to show a clip right here. I got clips, and I don't care if I get whatever zinged or whatever. So here you go. This is a clip from the episode from my number 5.
Scotty, you're my chief engineer. You know everything about that ship that there is to know, more than the men who designed it. If you can't get those warp engines working, you're fired.
Yeah.
Yep, that's from the Apple. That's from the episode where red shirts became a meme. Like 4 people, like 3 people got killed by natural means. A flower shoots poison darts. An igneous rock explodes underneath one of them, and another security guy gets hit by lightning. And then the 4th one gets killed by the tribe because they had to learn how to kill. So who were they going to kill? Not Kirk, not Spock, not McCoy,
of course not
Chekhov, not Yeoman Landon, but the other red shirt. There had 4 red shirts die in this episode.
And it shows Scotty is the toughest man in the world. He's wearing that red shirt and he lives through the whole thing.
Yeah, he's pretty. Like I said, he's pretty based, and he's got he's like they're finding problems all over. They're ordered to go to this planet in the Apple Gamma Trianguli 6 or 7. And they like it's one of those episodes where it begins with usually episodes mostly begin with either a distress call or weird sensor readings. Like they go and investigate weird sensor readings. In this case, they were investigating the weird sensor readings from this planet. Apparently the sensor readings come from this computer called Val, and this computer is super duper advanced to the point where it could just like pull the starship from orbit, and that's what they're basically fighting against, and that's what that's the context of the scene of the clip that I just showed. So ultimately, what do? They destroy it with the phasers.
If I remember right, I think Kirk in this episode that Kirk says if you have to do the saucer separation, you get the saucer out of there.
Yeah.
So, which of course. Later on, Star Trek Continues did that with their last story that they had. So,
yeah. So that's my number 5. Apple was it's not my favorite episode of the season. It's pretty popular. Just like once again, it just started so many tropes that just fans just laugh about to this day. And like the whole idea of Spock gets hit by those. Spock gets hit by those darts and he survives. Why? Well, because he's an alien. He's got green blood and this thing called plot armor. Remember, if you're on board the Enterprise and you go on a mission with Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, say your prayers because you're gonna die. You're likely gonna die. So that's my number 5.
It's gonna be Kirk. I'm gonna have a white party. It'll be Spock, McCoy, and Ensign Jimmy. No, not me.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so
my next one, I suppose, on there. By any other name, I thought that was because
that's mine too.
There we go. Same one, same number. Okay,
number 4.
I mean just drinking the Kelvin under the table scene.
You want me to show the clip?
Let's show the clip. Since we're in agreement on this one.
Yeah, where is it? Is it numbers?
We did it, you and me. Put him right under the table.
So you can see, I tried to cut it to kind of save myself from the eventual police. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I mean the drinking scene there. Of course, he's going to go tell Kirk, and it's like he doesn't even make it himself. What is it? I don't know. It's green.
It's green, and it's funny is they repeat that in was it Relics with Data?
Yeah,
Data says that in that episode. But I loved there was another moment in that episode that kind of stood out with Scotty that I nearly forgot about. So in this episode, the Kelvin. So in this episode, by another name, the Enterprise gets hijacked by these humanoid aliens called the Kelvins, and the Kelvins want to go back to their home. Where's their home? Well, their home is all the way in the Andromeda Galaxy. So in order for them to get to the Andromeda Galaxy, you have to cross the galactic barrier. You know, that big red painting or that big red barrier that you saw in the very first second pilot of the original series, which causes the Silver Eye people to spring out into existence. Well, they have to cross that barrier and then travel in the void between galaxies for 300 years. So the galactic barrier is full of negative energy, and Scotty was going to sabotage and destroy the ship by flooding the engines with positive energy. And well, let's just say it was a quick solution. And Kirk's like, no, we're not gonna do that. Scotty was like, sweating. He has hand on the button. He's like, no, that didn't happen. But then the Kelvins knew about it right away. They're like, we knew about your thing. We knew you were going to plan that. We had a fail safe. That's what I loved about this episode. The Kelvins were always just one step ahead of our heroes. Like, it wasn't just Khan that was like the one that nearly defeat them. These Kelvins were close to defeating them too, because they were like, they were superior in terms of intellect and in terms of intellect. Like they knew and technology.
And really, they weren't humanoid aliens. They just took those forms, and
yeah,
they were playing with that, which is why they had a drinking contest, and Kirk is seducing, and all that was to try to, okay, these are things you don't understand, so let's hit you with that.
Yeah, and what's great about this episode was they couldn't defeat them by force. They could only defeat them by using their human foibles, their human frailties against them, because they're inexperienced with this. So what does Kirk do? He starts flirting with the female Kelvin, Kalinda, and this pisses off Warren Stevens. Warren Stevens was in Forbidden Planet. He was the doctor in Forbidden Planet. Well, Warren Stevens is the leader, Rojan, and he gets pissed off. He's like, I want you to stay away from her. She tells him, I want you to stay away from Captain Kirk. He's a bad influence. She's like, I'm going to do what I want to do. Excuse me. so that leads to a fight where he's like, Kirk's like, why don't you use your paralysis field? Because in the episode, they have these little they have these belts, and they just have to push a button and it freezes everybody. That's how they captured the Enterprise in the first place. So, and they also use that same button. I don't know if you have to change the setting. They didn't really show that. They turn the whole crew into little crystal things that they're like this big, they're this big, and if you disobey them, well, Rojan took a red shirt, or it was a yeoman, it was a female yeoman, and he crushed it and threw the dust down, and she was dead. Like that, he's like, that person is dead, and it was like
giant 20-sided dice.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing I love about this original series is just how Kirk responds to every death. Like even in the Apple, when the 4 red shirts got killed, well, one of them he felt bad. With one of them he felt bad. He's like, oh, his father got me into the academy. And he's like, oh. And Spock has to, tell him like this was unavoidable. Like there's no way you could have known. And it's the same here. He kneels down. And he starts grabbing the dust, and it's just so heartbreaking. Like this is science fiction. These are characters I like. Like this is I could get behind, Shatner's Kirk. Like he's just awesome, and he's relatable. And he's someone you can easily see. I can't think of the word, but someone you get behind.
Right, you can follow. This guy's a leader. He thinks. A lot of people, like I said, even though we're talking about Scotty, a lot of people want to write him off as this big cowboy. But the thing is throughout all the thing, he is constantly thinking. He's taking advice. He's asking for counsel. Of course, his big 2 counselors is McCoy and Spock. Logic and emotion, weighing them out and coming to a decision. And yeah, it may not be the best decision, but at least it's it's like. He's trying to do the best he can.
Exactly. So, and he listens. I mean, he goes to McCoy he goes to McCoy. Like McCoy, like when he's alone, because being on the top, you're alone. So because McCoy is also technically, I think he's technically also the counselor. Like I think he's a psychologist too, or psychiatrist as well. So he goes to McCoy. He goes to McCoy when he's like feeling, at doubts. I mean, best example is Balance of Terror. When he's laying in the bed, he's like, why me? When I get up or when I make a decision, I look at the crew are waiting on me to, make the decision. He's like, "No, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong?"
It's like Bryce and Mike.
Yeah, exactly. So by any other name was a great episode. I loved how it ended with he gets into a fist fight with Rojan, and then he tells Rojan, like, you guys are going to be alien to those when you go back home. So Federations here will help you. Will help you. You're welcome to be here with us. And that's what I liked about the original series. And this is also the same with the Chironians, Beal and Loki, the two that represented hatred and racism. Even seeing all that, they're like, you're still welcome you're still welcome to be in the Federation with us. Just let go of your hate.
Yeah.
So that's what I liked about Star Trek. It was this word called inclusive, and it was willing to put aside, it was willing to be truly inclusive, and
it was ethic.
Yeah, exactly. But regardless of your prior beliefs, which is so hypocritical for what a lot of people are spouting online.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, that's a great episode. I mean, James Doohan did such a great job in that episode. So,
yeah, I totally agree. Speaking of which, I do have a clip from "Let That Be Your Last Battlefield."
Oh, okay.
Wait, did I add it? I guess I didn't add it. I didn't add it. No, never mind. Sorry. I didn't. I forgot to add. I didn't add it to.
I'm off. I'm out of here. This is a Mickey Mouse show. I'm out of here. No. Okay, so I suppose we go to number 3.
Number 3.
You should have something that goes 3.
I should.
It's a third season episode. A lot of people don't like third season episodes, but there were some gems in there. Enterprise incident, one of them, when they're trying to get the Romulan cloaking device and such. But that's more of a Spock story. I went with Day of the Dove. You can't go wrong with this episode. It's Klingon. You see the first female Klingon. You see Michael and Sarah as a Klingon. Like, crying out loud, great actor. But then you get Scotty out there when they walk into the room full of swords, and he grabs what's a basket-hilt sword, but he calls it a claymore. And he gets it in his hand. You can see that Scottish pride coming out of him as they're going to go out and do mano-a-mano melee battle with swords. And it was one of those things where you can see that Scottish pride coming out of Montgomery himself. The episode all across was a great episode, I thought. But right there, that was a joke.
Did he wear a kilt in that one? I know he wore the kilt in the Savage Kern with Lincoln, but did he wear a kilt? Right. I don't think he wore a kilt in that one.
Not in this episode, no. But he wore it in the Savage Kern because he was in dress uniform, and he was.
Remember, we should have let those Klingons die. What are we doing? And it got to a point where Scotty and Spock were about to kill each other. Like Spock just gave him like the death stare. I was like, whoa. Like when you see Nimoy give a death stare, that scared the hell out of me.
Oh yeah.
He's like, I'm sick of humans. Their illogic reads my or rattles my beads and stuff. I forgot how he said it. He didn't say it like that. It's been a while since I watched Day of the Dove, but I remember Scotty doing that. And Scotty and Spock nearly came to death blows.
Yeah, exactly.
And Scotty tried to attack him, and Spock grabs his arm, and Kirk's trying to get them to stop. And I forget exactly if he knocked Scotty out or if he simply separated them, but it was crazy.
It was.
They're all nuts. McCoy, they were all nuts. Sorry, go ahead.
They were all nuts. Yeah, and then they start realizing what it is. Now, is all this just to throw in here? This is the third season and how you saw more and more Scotty. I don't know if people know or not. Of course, they're applying the fourth season of Star Trek before they got the axe. Jimmy Doohan was actually going to be in the main credits, along with DeForest Kelly.
I was for what, season 3 or for a follow?
When they would have done a season, if they would have gone ahead to do a fourth season, because of course the first season was just William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy in the main titles, but then obviously DeForest Kelly just shined. Then they added him in for the season 2 and then 3, They just
Yeah.
changed the color of the titles in 3, and if they would have gone with a 4th season, James Doohan would have been in the main titles as well.
Do you know if they would have changed the colors of
I
of
don't
the
know about
letters
that.
then?
I have
That's
no
one.
idea, but I just know that he was going to be included because he was becoming much more out there. He was a good friend of Gene Roddenberry.
Yeah, yeah. James Doohan. Okay,
Yeah.
that I didn't know. I have to. I need to read up
Mhm.
on. I do need to read up on all this, but um, but yeah, I loved the I loved the first season opening with just Shatner and Nimoy. I loved how that the cello version of that
Mhm.
of the opening credits
Oh yeah, with the whoa.
with the with the cello, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because I think the earlier ones had the vocals. I think the earlier ones had the vocals. I think so.
Went the other way. I gotta watch them
Well,
again. It's been a while. There's a
here's the
lot of
thing.
memory up there.
When I rented Where No Man Has Gone Before on VHS, they
Mhm.
played a version of it where you didn't hear the Shatner's monologue in the beginning, in the
Right.
opening credits. You didn't hear that, and I'm
Mhm.
kind of like, why? I'm like, was that how the episode originally aired without the space, the final frontier? These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise.
I think the first one didn't, and then there was also 2 versions of the second pilot. So technically, if you want to go about it, there were 3 pilots made. There was the Pike one. Then they did a another version of no. Then they filmed the Kirk one. The where no Man's Gone Before, and that
Yeah,
actually had it where you had Act 1, Act 2, like you were
yeah.
watching a Quentin Martin production.
Hmm.
That never aired. They never aired, but that was scene. You could have that scene at the Smithsonian. They played that one at the Smithsonian. I got a bootleg tape, but I think they included it in some of the DVD sets or
I think I've
Blu-rays
seen it on the
now.
DVDs too.
Right,
I'll have to definitely check that out. But
right.
I have a
And
maybe you can answer the Fuppets question right here.
what's this?
What wasn't IDIC something Gene came up with from merchandising? IDIC,
Merchandising.
infinite diversity and infinite combination. So was that little necklace that he was wearing in Is There in Truth No Beauty supposed to be for merchandising?
I mean, I'll be honest, I don't know because I don't know how much merchandising they actually were doing. Lincoln Enterprise started coming up a little bit more towards the end when they started realizing that there was a big thing. I think I'm trying to remember if DC Fontana because she was the one that really honed in on Spock. Everything that we know about Spock, basically, about 90% of it you can sit back and say is DC Fontana. By
Was she
shaping and forming that.
responsible for because I know according to Mark Zickery, it was Ted Sturgeon that wrote Amok Time. So was
Right.
DC Fontana responsible for rewriting the episode by any chance?
Well, she the one episode that really defined Spock was
Journey to Babel.
Journey to Babel, and that was the one. But behind the scenes, I think she was doing a lot of this is what Spock's character is. Oddly enough, in those notes, she made it known that Spock had no siblings, and that
Mm-hmm.
Sark never married before, which of course William Shatner tossed to the side when he did Star Trek V. But I think there was a lot of stuff behind the scenes that DC Fontana was writing on how to do the character, and then of course when she did Journey to Babel, and then of course, and I placed it as one of the top 10 episodes of Star Trek ever, the animated series Yesteryear, where he goes back at the time again, forming and shaping the character of Mr. Spock even more.
Okay, so that's your number. So that's your number 3. Okay.
Yeah, Day of the Dove is my number 3 because, like I said, you got that there, and like you're saying, the hostility and all that. You're seeing that he's really being shaped to become one of the main cast.
Fandomology, Paul. Stay tuned. You might be in for a treat. And
And
then we have Nate himself. What's up, Nate? Nate was on my episode 3, or was it episode or no? Was it episode 3? Episode 3, Orville after show. So yeah, great. It was a great guest. Thanks for coming by on this. He says, according to my older brother, who saw Star Trek when it originally aired, the first 2 episodes did not have Space: The Final Frontier.
No,
That's interesting.
I think you can find some. I mean, they might have changed it now for Where No Man's Gone Before, but I remember watching it in syndication and such without the Space: The Final Frontier. It was like the only episode at that time that was aired.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And of course, when they finally showed the cage, obviously the same thing there, but that doesn't really count because that was
Yeah.
oodles years later.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, number 3. This was a high stakes moment that I think Scotty should be credited for. So let's find it. Where is it? Right
Oh,
here.
Ron. Okay, Ron
Number.
did come up with it. Okay.
All right. Here we go.
Bridge, it's shorted out again. August.
Gentlemen, beam me aboard.
Mr. Scott. 6.
Fire now, Mr. Kyle.
5. 4.
So that was obviously Scotty trying at the last minute to save Kirk. Save Kirk from the USS was a Constellation. The USS Constellation before it went into before it would shove itself into the planet killer's throat. So there we go. So that was Scotty doing a last minute. Holy crap! Like they're trying to beam up and then like the that was a big nice budget to put little little charges into the transporter pads, especially in the 60s. You're like, whoa, what's going on here? But yeah,
oh yeah, go ahead.
Planet Killer. The Planet Killer is basically cornucopia, an evil
cornucopia death.
Yep, cornucopia death. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, this almost made it. And yeah, you know what? That had to be. The Thada had to be. Yeah, you're right. Roddenberry did come up with Edic. He did come up with that. But I don't know if it was about merchandising or not. I mean, I think it was just part of that. But I know that. So that was the 10% that DC Fontana didn't put in for Spock. You don't know how close this came to being on my list. It's not on my list. I'll let you know that the spoiler. But I was really thinking hard about that because this episode is one of my top 5 favorite episodes.
Oh, I mean, it's like we meet another commander, apparently a Commodore. I didn't know this.
Mm-hmm.
A Commodore can command a ship. I thought Commodores only commanded star bases and were behind the desk. I mean, they obviously outranked captains, but I didn't even know that they I didn't know that they could command ships. Well, here's Commodore Decker. And what's funny was I saw a motion picture before I saw this episode, and actually had read the chronology and the encyclopedia before I saw this episode. So I thought they were going to reference that he had a son, Will, Captain Decker from motion picture. So I was surprised that they didn't even say anything about that. So I'm guessing this was something that Okuda and his wife kind of put together. And I don't know if this was something Roddenberry thought of in the script for motion picture.
Yeah, it does go back all the way. It does go back all the way to the motion picture, but they never made a big thing about it.
They never said anything about it. So I'm curious if that was like in the original motion picture script, or if there was Roddenberry's intent to have Will Decker be the son of, Commodore Decker, Matt Decker, played by William Wyndham. And like when I first saw, I was a kid when I first saw the episode, I didn't get what he was doing. He's just like this. And I didn't like, I'm like, what is he doing? Is he nuts? Well, he wasn't nuts. He was in shock. Like he beamed. It's like, imagine if, you sent everybody, you're being attacked by the Empire, Star Wars. Imagine you're being attacked by the Empire and everybody takes escape pods and, lands on Alderaan. And then of course, then the Death Star does this thing, blows it up. That's basically what happened here, except it didn't just blow it up. It ate the planet. It eats the planet for energy. So, and the way they showed the ship, like the inside of the Constellation, how messed up it was and how dark it was like a haunted house. And he was just like this on the desk. It's scary. It was a scary it was a scary image when you truly think about it.
And the Thada had to be is absolutely right on that one. I was going to bring that in there. Commodore was not only a base commander, but of course with old naval tradition, Commodore was actually a temporary rank. So they would take a captain and give them, okay, you're Commodore because you're going to be in command of this group of ships, but you're not an admiral. It's kind of like it's kind of like Anakin. You're on the council, but you're not granted the title of master. Yeah. And then once the thing would be done. Now this is old days. I don't know about Star Trek was an actual rank as it is in our military now. But in the old days, once the thing was done, the Commodore would be taken away. In some ways, the fleet captain that Pike was kind of a pseudo same thing of a Commodore.
Mm-hmm. I got a question for you. Which Commodore do you prefer, Commodore Stone or Commodore Mendez? I just have to ask. Starbase 11.
Oh. Stone was pretty cool.
Stone was I agree. Stone was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Captain, it looks like you committed willful perjury. Why? It said you jettisoned the pod after you went to Red Alert. Consider yourself confined to the base. Like he would have been a perfect character to bring in the Strange New Worlds in my opinion, because he was awesome, and I think he should have been Pike's superior or something in this show. And instead they made April. Instead they decided to change April's complexion. I'll say.
Yeah.
But that's just me. Because there were a lot of great memes.
Started.
Yeah, we're here to talk about stuff that we like and we enjoy. So my number 3. That was my number 3 was Doomsday Machine. Sorry, go ahead.
Fantastic, and you don't know how hard it was for me. I was thinking that one over and over again. It's like I love the episode. Is it because I love the episode or because of Scotty in there? But I decided I want to try to get a little more Scotty-ish with some of these moments. Mm-hmm. So my second one. Of course, it brings in my favorite, well, they call him villain, but nemesis, or adversary, you might say, for a return. The only one to have made 2 appearances on Star Trek, by the way, and stuck on a planet, and that is Mud. Harcourt Fenton Mudd. And, of course, they're having to go around and do all these ridiculous things around the androids to try to get Norman to short circuit. And they're short circuiting everything there. And Scotty is just having a grand old time in that one. It was just like,
what are you doing, Mud? You trying to hit my people at their weakest points? No, we wish to make you happy.
I mean,
I'm dying. I'm dying of happiness. Kill me. I can't do the wacky little sound that they use for their fingers.
Yeah. And then the dance. And I mean, just everything. Everybody across there. I mean, if it was one of your favorite moments for any of those cast members, any of those characters, this episode would be in there because it was Uhura, it was Chekhov, because they all did such a wonderful job, and of course, Jimmy Doohan did a great job in there too with all the silliness going on. Harcourt Fenton Mudd being one of my favorite all-time Star Trek adversaries. Rest his soul.
Roger C. Carmel. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I loved Mudd's. I love both these episodes. What do you think of Mudd's passion from the animated show?
The problem with that is being with a half-hour series. I hate to say this. It sounded like Roger C. Carmel phoned in his vocal performance. So, I mean, I don't know how good of a vocal artist he was for animated. And I don't know, that one just rang a little hollow. I wish it was better. Maybe if it was a full-fledged hour-long episode instead of the half-hour animated, it might have worked. I don't know. But, I mean, it was great to see him back in the animated form. It was great that Roger C. Carmel played the part again with the voice, but it rang a little hollow for me.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I was happy that they got him because if you watch enough of the animated Trek, and this is a pet peeve of mine, every other female character is played by Majel Barrett. No offense to Jimmy Doohan, but every other male alien or other character is clearly Jimmy Doohan. It just got kind of annoying. So I was happy that Roger C. Carmel came back as Mudd. I think Mark Leonard came back as Sarek, I believe.
He did.
And I don't know who else. I think didn't what's his name come back as Cyrano Jones?
Yes,
Stanley
he did.
Adams.
Stanley Adams did come back.
I think he wrote one of the. I think he wrote one of the animated episodes, didn't he? Because he co-wrote the Mark of Gideon, I believe.
Right.
The one with the overpopulation.
Yeah, I think I know he was involved with one of the episodes. Now I'm gonna pull out the book.
The book.
And that was a 3rd season episode.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't be hard for me to find. The Mark of Gideon. Stanley Adams and George F. Sullivan. 7. So yes, he was in that episode. He
Yep.
did write that episode.
Okay.
Unfortunately, sadly, he committed suicide in the 70s.
I heard.
Yeah.
It's chilling. It's really chilling. So, R.I.P.
Okay, so
The-
that was
so
mine. So now it's your turn. Number 2?
Okay. So you did your number 2. All right. Well,
Yeah, that was
this-
Imud. That was Imud.
All right, Imud. Okay. Well, this number 2 is, to me, in my opinion, Scotty at his most based self.
Diplomacy, gentlemen, should be a job left to diplomats. You will, of course, immediately resume a peaceful status.
No, sir. I will not.
What did you say?
I'll not lower the screens, not until the captain tells me to.
You are taking orders from me. You will lower the screens as a sign of good faith. My authority.
I know about your authority, but the screens stay up.
That's Scotty.
That was one of my favorite moments with him. So that is from the episode A Taste of Armageddon. Taste of Armageddon is the episode where they are ordered by this ambassador who we just saw, Ambassador Robert Fox, to go to this particular sector, the Eminiar sector, or the Eminiar system, to start to basically form relations with the peoples there so that they can have a port set up. Because according to Ambassador Fox, a lot of people have died because they were cut off from the Federation as part of the quadrant. And so they need he's like, we need to have a port here. This is something that's more important even than the safety of the ship. Because the very beginning of the episode, the very first act, they try to say, hey, they contact Eminiar, and Eminiar says, do not come here. We are at war. Do not come here under any circumstances. And then Ambassador Fox basically orders them to disregard that and go anyways, which leads into this episode. And so they go to this planet, and this planet fights all their wars with computers. And so one of the attacks that if you weren't aware of it, like just one attack destroys the Enterprise according to their computers. So they're holding everyone on the planet, Kirk, Spock, one of the yeomans and security. They're being held there until everyone from the Enterprise comes down and has to submit to go to they have to go report to a disintegration machine to keep the guys of the war going, keep that comfortable 500-year-long war going instead of the real thing.
Let's call it what it really is. It's the Futurama suicide booth. They have to go in there, put 50 credits in, and
exactly. So with the context with that clip with Scotty was, so while they're on the planet's surface, first they tried to trick the Enterprise into like the leader, Anon 7, used a voice modulator to make himself sound like Shatner, to make himself sound like Kirk, and he orders everyone. He's like, hey, come on down to the planet. And come on down to the planet. We'll send trained Eminians up to take over the ship. And he's like, what? He's like, okay. And then he's like, okay, and he tells McCoy, he's like, what do you think of that? And then he checks the voice modulation, checks to see if the voice is authentic, and it's not. It's 98% likely it was duplicated. So he figured that out. See, this is when characters were this thing called smart and knew their jobs and knew how to, how to get themselves out of bad situations. So they did that, and then after that, the planet started opening fire on the Enterprise. Now with the shields up, or the screens, they call them the screens at this point, they were doing no damage. But the moment they lower the screens, they could get destroyed. And so the argument there is, Fox just talked to Anon 7. It's like, oh, you have my word. We'll not do it again. Honest. It was a clerical error. It was a clerical mistake. It won't happen again. And of course, Fox believes them because, it's in his interest to believe them. So he orders Scotty to stand down. Scotty's like, no, I'm not going to stand down. I don't trust these people. And that's where it goes. And of course, ultimately, Kirk manages to take control of the situation and like literally orders Scotty, General Order 24. In 2 hours, I have all the cities locked on. I am going to destroy Eminiar 7. And I'm just like, oh, Scotty, you are savage. So it was a great moment. It was one of my favorites in the series. He's a rebel. He was a rebel in this case.
I should have put this episode on. I mean, I was thinking about it too. So actually, one you said about honorable mentions. I won't go any further than that, but let's just say that there's some that will be put into there.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, Scotty was, James Doohan did a great job in there. You can see where, I mean, of all, no offense to Nichelle Nichols or Walter Koenig or George Takei. Out of the background characters, they were all background characters, including Jimmy Doohan. Jimmy
Yeah.
Doohan was definitely the best. He was the one that shined, and that was why he was going to become, virtually becoming the fourth Beatle.
Yeah.
The fourth
I mean,
triumvirate.
what's funny was that kind of went through, but through his son, because if you watch Star Trek Continues, in the opening credits, those four, Kirk, Spock, McCoy, and Scotty. So his son got to carry on that legacy.
Mm-hmm. They knew if they were going to go for a fourth season, this is what was going to happen.
Exactly. So, so let's go into some other honorable mentions.
Honorable mentions. Well, like you said, that episode honorable mention because Scotty is 100% badass.
Yes, he is.
Wolf in the Fold. Only reason why it's an honorable mention because it's not that great of an episode.
No,
it's just a tired old trope. But the thing is, he did see Jimmy Doohan really putting his chomps in there. I mean, if it was, it was being that was you talking about moments, it was almost worth putting on the list. But being it wasn't that good of an episode, he really did a great job in that as well. Again, showing us that there's a lot more to this character.
I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
Where were you? I don't remember. I think that's the only thing I remember him saying is like, I don't remember.
Yep, and they're wanting to for murder and all that. Yeah. Now, I'm going to be very liberal and loose here. Me, old conservative Baron Orman Tagge is going to be very liberal here. I'm actually going to go outside of TOS with some honorable mentions, and that's why they are honorable mentions. They're not part of the TOS. That would be, of course, in Star Trek 3. We talked about it. Up your shaft, and from one surgeon to another. The more you take up the plumbing, the easier it is to stop up the drain. That was great. Star Trek 4, computer, hello computer, and
just use the keyboard. Just use the keyboard.
Exactly, and of course, that'll be whales here. Those
how do we know? How do we know we didn't invent the damn thing?
Yeah, exactly.
And then they look at then him and McCoy or him and DeForest Kelly look at the camera and they smile. I love that. I love
breaking
that
the fourth wall almost there.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I have to move to out even further. I mean, you could touch a little bit with Star Trek 5 because he and Nichelle Nichols were kind of implying a relationship between those two characters. That's all. I'm not going to put it in there. It's not even on my honorable mention list. It's on like my honorable because it's Star Trek 5. But Jimmy Doohan and Nichelle Nichols acting like there was a little bit of a relationship, and they intended to do that. They wanted to imply that there was a relationship between them.
He's like, Lassie, I don't think I'm that strong in this position right now because he's like, I know this ship like the back of my bangs his head on the ceiling.
And and he hated that scene, by the way. Absolutely.
I'm sure he did. It made him look like a buffoon.
Exactly, and that's why he hated it. It's like he doesn't mind having jokes or having jokes at Scotty, but this was a buffoon thing. But William Shatner.
Maybe William Shatner felt like he was kind of muscling in on his territory.
Well, there was that at that time. There was that,
because him and James Doohan had feuds. Maybe Shatner did that on purpose, that jerk.
Right. At that time, those two weren't exactly on come on over for Christmas dinner or let's hang out and watch the game type of situation.
I mean, Doohan has literally said, I like Captain Kirk, but I'm not a big fan of I'm not a fan of Bill Shatner. That's what he said.
I was just going to say, when he was in the interview here on one of our stations, that's exactly, I love Captain Kirk, but I hate William Shatner. But of course, my last one, my honorable mention, again, like I said, this is a very loose and liberal one. Relics, where you really have him as a fish, out of time, a man out of time, working with Geordi and trying to figure out this universe and how to, on there. You have that great scene with him and Patrick Stewart on the simulated bridge as they're talking about stuff and as he's trying to get through. And that's why these are on my honorable list. If it was beyond, if we could do Scotty all across Star Trek, they would have. Some of these would have been on my top 5.
A real Dyson sphere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that I took away from from this episode the most, and I've kind of used that philosophy whenever I'm at work and stuff. It's like, you don't tell the captain exactly when you're going to get it done. How do you think they made me the? How do you think I got the? How do you think I got the miracle worker name?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's
some
at least always estimate twice what it actually is.
There's some fans that actually got torqued off at that. They thought that Scotty was a shyster. Then after that, you just what. So I remember some fans not being happy with that. So it's like, come on, he's an engineer.
Exactly. And you don't need. Here's the thing, though. You don't know exactly how long it's going to take.
Exactly.
So it could take longer. It could take shorter. You don't truly know. But the thing is, the commander or the boss wants a number. They want a number so that they can communicate that with all the other departments. I mean, that's just how it is in the workplace. So
right.
So I'm totally for that. And I have to address this right here. Tad, that shouldn't be. He says, while Star 5 had its problems, it's better than 3 and 7 through 10. Okay, 7 through 10, sure. 3, no. I think Search for Spock's a better movie than Final Frontier. Search for Spock really is really Kirk, sacrificing. Kirk sacrificed a lot just to bring Spock back, and that means a lot more than what 5 tried to do, in my opinion.
Well, and 3, the one thing that really seals it for me with that one is the mind meld between Sarek and Kirk. Yeah. And you watch that scene.
I tear up.
Mm-hmm.
I tear up when I see that. So, but yeah, okay. This I get. This
I do too.
But it did make it. You felt, and this is a Scotty moment. Here's the thing. So Scotty, it was Scotty's look, the way he looked at Kirk that made me upset at this the most. Or it really drove home that he was dead, and because Kirk falling down out of the chair kind of looked kind of goofy, as horrible as it sounds. I mean, it would happen to anybody.
Right.
But it was the way Scotty or James Doohan looked at him in sympathy that really kind of brought the realization, that really added to that moment.
And how good of an actor he is.
Yes.
To do that.
Yes.
Right.
And same with DeForest Kelly. So I mean, those moments were great. But all right, so that's your your honorable mentions. All right, so my honorable mentions. So one for Mr. Fandomology, because he brought it up, and I actually have it right here. Where is it? Right here. All right, here you go.
Doctor, I seen the captain feverish, sick, drunk, delirious, terrified, overjoyed, boiling mad. But up to now, I have never seen him red-faced with hysteria.
Yep, so that was from the episode Turnabout Intruder, the final episode of the original series. And that's the episode Kirk gets body swapped with Janet Lester, an old flame who hates him for being a man and for men being captains. Only men can be captains. So so right now Shatner or Kirk is in Janet Lester's body, and she's in Kirk's body, and she's just like going completely nuts, going completely bonkers. And that's basically they're having a trial, they're having like a hearing, and they're talking in between the hearing, and this is when Scotty says, like, I have never seen, this is not the captain. And what's funny was right after that we find out that they were being spied on the whole time, so they get arrested. McCoy and Scotty get arrested too. So Spock's arrested and McCoy and Scotty are arrested. It's ridiculous. The whole episode was ridiculous. So but that was a great monologue from Scotty. So what was another one that I really liked was from The Naked Time. Remember The Naked Time? Remember the Psi 2000? Everybody got drunk. And remember a character named Lieutenant Riley? Remember Riley?
I love Riley.
Home again, Kathleen. Him. Remember how he went into the engineering and kind of locked himself in? and then he shuts the end. Remember how he shuts the engines off?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here's a clip.
I can't change the laws of physics. I've got to have 30 minutes.
Yeah, I love that.
I love all those musical cues that led into commercial and stuff. I used to have like all of them memorized in my head. So when La La Land came out with its Star Trek original Star Trek, like its actual soundtrack, I was like, I had to get it. I just had to get it because that was something I wanted as a kid. I wanted to listen to it going to school, it was crazy. And I loved all those. I loved all those little, those end musical cues that led into the commercials. But yeah, in this case, I cannot change the laws of physics. I'm sure you've heard the Dr. Demento, Star Trekking across the universe. I cannot change the laws of physics, laws of physics, laws of physics. I cannot change the laws of physics, sir.
Yep, and that was kind of one of the little cues that we had in our fandoms back in the days. I cannot change the laws of physics. I mean, that was spewed out as much as Live Long and Prosper back in the day. Back in the 80s there when we were doing Star Trek, and probably even the 70s before that, because that is a great line. And in many ways, that should have been put on my list. But it's like, there's so much. But the one thing, I loved Riley. He only made 2 appearances. I wish he would have been in the series longer.
Me too.
He was a professor in Minnesota here, I believe, at St. Cloud's University before he passed away.
Yeah. Tad that shouldn't be says, nah, you need Q to change the laws of physics. Well, you need to change the gravitational, and wasn't Deja Q? He has to change the gravitational constant. And Jordy's like, how am I supposed to do that? Just change the constant. Yeah, he forgets that not humans can't do that. So, just had to say. But yeah, but I don't think he's ever said in any other episode. But yeah, the other episode Riley was in was Conscience of the King, the one where they bring on board the Caridian Shakespearean troupe, and find out, we learn a little bit about Kirk's, adolescence. He was on his colony, Tarsus. Was it Tarsus 4? Tarsus 3. Tarsus 3 or whatever. And he's like the last witness. Him and Riley were witnesses of atrocities being committed by Kodos, who ends up becoming Anton-Caridian, the head of the Caridian, Shakespearean company. And I loved how Riley. Now Scotty, what's funny is we're talking about this episode, Scotty wasn't even in this episode. One other thing I always kept track of is what episodes like characters went in. Scotty was not. There's like at least 10 to 12 episodes Scotty was not in season 1. So the episodes that he was in, I liked him more because he was in it, because Scotty's awesome,
right? Because he was a background character. I mean, literally, he was.
Yes, exactly.
And he, Takai, Nimoy, and Kirk are the only ones that did the second pilot that moved on.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, you didn't have Uhura. You had Alden, and you didn't have Yeoman Rand. You had Yeoman Smith. And instead of and then he had Lieutenant Kelso, but he got killed. So he was a guest star. Sally Kellerman is Dr. Daner, and of course Gary Mitchell. Gary Lockwood is Lieutenant Commander Gary Mitchell. Yeah, they were all guest stars just for that pilot because they all got killed. So
I don't like Kelso. I hated that when he got killed. It's like, oh no.
Yeah, it was because frickin' Mitchell had to. They were on Delta Vega. He's already got the silver eyes, and he just thinks about it. He uses the force, and he takes control of a cable, and it just strangles Kelso. So it was tough because Kelso kind of came off as like the lead engineer instead of Scotty. So I don't know. Maybe he was under Scotty. I don't know. I'd have to double check on that. So,
but at that time, they really didn't have anything really fully fleshed out. I mean, Scotty, at that time, they had the older, first pilot type uniforms, and he didn't have a red uniform.
Yeah, and I think they all had the lieutenant. They all had the lieutenant on their sleeves.
Basically, it was like one / was officer, 2 was like captain. It was like kind of that thing. It was going for position more than an actual rank.
Exactly. So, that was okay. So that was Naked Time. Then there was another really small clip. It was very insignificant, but remember an episode where a certain Superman takes over the ship and holds everybody in the briefing room, and then all of a sudden the room is flooded with anesthetizing gas.
No, I don't remember anything like that at all.
Well,
What
maybe
could you possibly be talking about?
Well,
Let's find out.
Let's find out. I always laughed at how like Scotty just like would stop. He just stopped and just punch. He didn't have to punch a guy. He just punched the guy anyways, just for the sake of it, and then flees instead of just fleeing. Because everyone else it was only him and Khan that like left the room. Everybody else stayed in the room for some reason and just passed out. So,
but yeah, I know, I love that. That's Scottish. I'm gonna get you, laddie. On the way out.
Well, I mean the jerk. I mean, I don't know if it was the same guy, but the one jerk smacked Uhura, which would that would never, but that never fly. But one thing I noticed about that scene, when he smacks Uhura, Spock is the first one that reacts to it. You would think Spock would be the one that wouldn't react to it, but he's the one that gets up like that. He reacts to it like physically. And yeah, I was like 11. I was 10 or 11 when I first saw that episode. Holy crap. That was so that just ranked the tension up. I was like, holy crap, these guys are bad. So
you can believe that these were crazy Supermen.
Yes. So
okay, are we going to one now, or is there any others?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, there was a few other I wanted to bring up that I wrote down that I didn't make videos on. There was that Which Survives. That was the one where they go to this plant, this dead colony this dead plant that was supposed to that was terraformed by this alien race, the Kalandans, I believe. And Lee Merriweather plays the sole guest star. She plays Lucera, who was basically a hologram without the safety protocols on. And it's not only a hologram, but she's like a safety she's like a safety unit to protect their security unit to protect the planet. So whenever she comes across people, she kills them. She just touches them, and then they die. Right. And so
a siren.
So exactly. So Kirk, McCoy, Sulu, and Lieutenant D'Amato. So you can only imagine what happens to poor Lieutenant D'Amato. He's the casualty because he went with them. He's the casualty.
I thought he was one of the major stars that kept on going.
It's easy to make that. It's really easy to make that mistake, but no. So, but while they're on the planet, trying to survive, the Enterprise gets swooped away, like a whole sector away, and they try to make it back to the base. But the thing is, the ship gets sabotaged by Lucera because they I forget what exactly they fuse a few of the units. And it gets to the point where the ship keeps going faster and faster into warp to the point where the ship cannot handle itself. So in order to do that, Scotty has to basically cut off the flow of the fuel in the matter-antimatter drive. And it gets to a point where they actually we find out that they were transported there. They didn't just appear there. They were transported there. So the polarity was kind of messed up. So he had to reverse the polarity of his probe, sticks the wrench into the system, and then everything is good. So, and it was pretty cool. Like, it was like Scotty was like, "You're gonna have to jettison me. We're gonna have to jettison me. This is not gonna work." He's like, Spock's like, "Do your job." He's like, Mr. Scott, keep going. And Scotty's like begging him. He's like, "You gotta jettison me. It's stuck. The wrench, the probe is stuck." It's funny. But yeah, he saved the ship. He was in the tube. His face was full of colors. He's looking into the engine, and he sticks the hand in there, and you even see little speckles of electric current. It was a really cool thing. So
I always loved when went in the tube, the Jeffrey tubes.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was pretty cool. So that was that was it. So that's my last I think that's my last thing. So what's your
before we go on to that one, just a little bit of history on the creation of Scotty. Of course, he was written in with the Bible and such, and a little bit of brief history on him. Kind of, again, when it was written up, Scotty was an only child. He had no siblings, which of course we know now with the special edition of the Star Trek 2. Of course, anybody who read the novels and all that knew that as well. That he had a sister and he had Peter Preston as his young nephew. And again, talk about another good scene there is him with the death of his nephew. But that's one of the interesting things, again, how things evolved where, he didn't have any siblings. Now he has a sister on that one. So just a little thing about the creation of Mr. Scott. Now, I think we're in agreement on number one. I just have this sneaky feeling just by the backdrop that we have there. Absolute favorite, and it's one of my favorite episodes as well. The Trouble with Tribble Slotty.
Yeah, that's my number one too.
There are so many great moments with Mr. Scott in there. Whether it's the lead up to the fight with the Klingon, being dressed down by the captain afterwards, and Kirk being flummoxed because it wasn't because of Kirk that Scotty threw the punch. It was because of the ship. So we
they
know
called the Enterprise a garbage scow, sir.
And then Scotty's solution at the end is like, what did you do with the Tribbles? They're aboard the Klingon ship.
Sir.
Where?
I gave them the Klingons, sir. You gave them the Klingons. Mm-hmm. Mr. Scott, you didn't beam them into space, did you? No, that'd be inhuman, sir.
Mm-hmm.
It was great. Yeah, I love.
Will there be no trouble at all?
Would there be no trouble at all? I loved, but I loved how Scotty was like, Scotty didn't want to go on shore leave, and he's like, mm-hmm. he would, because one thing we do know is that he likes to spend his time just reading technical journals. That's all he likes to do.
Yep.
It's like, don't you ever relax? I am relaxing.
Mm-hmm. That's how I relax.
And I don't remember if it was from that episode. There was an episode where they're like, don't you ever relax? I am relaxing.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, he doesn't want to go on shore leave, and Kirk orders him to go on shore leave to Space Station K7, where the episode takes place. Mm-hmm. And yeah, they're having a drink. They're minding their own business. Mm-hmm. And let's just say the Klingons show up. Captain Koloff shows up with his ship and his crew. They're tired, and because of the Organian priest tree, because this is the second appearance of the Klingons. Well, technically no.
No.
It's second or third appearance. So the first appearance was Aaron to Mercy, and then you have Friday's Child, which you just saw that one Klingon.
Yeah,
I forgot that guy's name, but he's
exactly
nobody remembers him. Nobody remembers him. He just had a neck beard. That's all I remember about him.
Right.
And so this is the third appearance. So based on the Organian peace treaty, which was established in Aaron to Mercy, they have to, be willing to allow them to use their facilities for, R&R. Mm-hmm. So that's what happens. And well, let's just say the first officer of the Klingon ship, what was his name? There's Koloff, and then there was I can't remember his name.
I can't remember his
name. I know Michael Paddock plays him. I know his actor Karnas, same actor. Karnas.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But he starts insulting Kirk. He calls it, hey, just like Kirk, he's a Regulan bloodworm. Hey, and then of course Chekhov tries to attack him. Scotty's always telling him, hey, sit down, that's an order. Everybody's entitled to an opinion. That's right. I didn't meant, or you know what? Enterprise. You know what? The Enterprise should be. I've heard the Enterprise should be hauling garbage. Half the quadrant knows it. That's why they learn. That's why they're learning. They're going to learn Klingonese. And then this moment happens right here. Here we go.
Laddie, don't you think you should rephrase that?
I meant to say that it should be hauled away as garbage.
and we know how that all plays out. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they beat the crap out of each other, and then Kirk, like you say, dresses all of them down.
Mm-hmm.
Remember,
Yeah,
he also
exactly.
dresses down O'Brien. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, who started the fight? I don't know, sir. So
Mm-hmm.
they swapped out that one security guy or that one guy, that one guy in the yellow shirts for
Yeah.
O'Brien and
O'Brien,
Deep
and
Space,
then
in the
Bashir's
Trials
next
and
to him.
Tribulations, and yeah, right next to him. It's like, why is he talking to me? All right, you're all dismissed. Not you, Scotty. You were supposed to prevent this misunderstanding. He's just like, he doesn't know how to answer him.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, well, they called you a Denabian slime devil. I see. He's like, I get the picture, Scotty. And that's when you hit the clans. No, sir. You told us to, hold our, to hold ourselves accountable. You know, we're big. We're grown ups. We can take, a few insults. Then why did you hit the Klingons? They called the Enterprise a garbage cow, sir. So you hit the Klingons because they insulted the Enterprise, not because, well, sir, this was a matter of pride. That was love that.
And then,
Love that.
and
Love
then,
that.
and then it's like you're confined to quarter. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Now I can get thank you, sir. Now I get a chance to catch up on my technical journals.
Don't throw me in that briar patch, Captain Kirk. Don't throw me in that briar patch.
That was great. And of course, the end of the episode with that's what's funny was also the one shot where you see Duhan's missing finger because when he's holding all the tribbles, like he's holding all the tribbles like that. So that was a interesting shot, of course. And then of course,
one of the few times that was ever seen in there, you actually kind of see it prominent in Star Trek 4 because he's holding the mouse. You can see
that's right.
Mm-hmm.
So so if you don't know, James Doohan lost his finger because he actually fought in D-Day. So if there's another reason to think he is based, it's because he was freaking war. He's a war veteran, World War II veteran.
He was very proud.
Combat veteran.
Mm-hmm.
So
he was shot like 7 times or something like that. And of course, one of them took the finger off, and like this guy was tough. Well, a lot of these people they were veterans, and that someone was saying that was kind of the thing that Roddenberry and him kind of bonded on a little bit because Roddenberry was a B-17 pilot in the Pacific, and Scotty was on Juno, I believe, because he was with the Canadians in being combat and such like that. So there was a little bit of a bonding between them with that. But those were. They were good friends, and and that's one of my favorite episodes. That's actually one of the episodes as a kid that got me to watch Star Trek because I always thought that Star Trek was one of these scary monster shows, and my dad wanted to prove a point that no, it's not. It's they have this, and just watch this episode. It's like it has a serious undertone to it. There's something serious about it, but yet the humor isn't outrageous. You can believe what's going on. It's like comedy of errors throughout the whole thing, and it wasn't over exaggerated like some people would try to do today. And it was how perfect that episode was. David Gerald did a great job writing that. Everyone did a great. Jimmy Doohan did a great job.
Yeah, just like you can do. Yeah, you can do comedy without making them look stupid. Right. I mean, like what do you say? It was Trial of Errors or something?
Yeah, comedy of errors.
And then of course they did excellent. They excelled at that in Star Trek 4 with the fish out of water scenario, which made it funny. What would you call iMud? Was another
I would say it was be in the same vein where there's obviously humorous aspects to it, but it's very serious under the whole thing. And and again, it's the situation that they're in, and no one's obviously they're playing over because they're doing the trying to get the androids to short circuit. But again, everything was serious to it, but it was getting in the situation that they're fully in. It's kind of, this is an outrageous situation. How the hell did we get here?
Exactly. Yeah.
And then how are we going to get out of this? And then the humor is based all around, especially at the end when Harcourt Fenton Mudd had several copies of his wife that he was trying to get away from.
That was great.
Hardcore
Hardcore
fat
fat mud. What have you been up to? You've been overeating again and sleeping.
Shut up!
Shut up.
Shut up!
I said shut
up!
No, I said shut up. Thing.
Yeah. But at the end there, he's trying to do that because they're all coming out and they're not listening. Oh, hey, you got yourself. There we
Bot.
go. The bot.
Oh no.
Oh,
I don't even have my. Yeah, that's exactly. So yeah, that's my that's our number one. That's our number one,
Yeah.
Scotty. Trouble with Tribbles. So it's
he shines so much there.
Yes. I gotta go onto YouTube now. I'm not doing that. Bot alert. I wish my mods were here. Wish my mods were here to do this. I should make some more mods.
Oh, your mod setback wanted me to tell you that they wanted to have a pay raise.
All right, I put them in timeout. I put them in. That's exactly what they want. I could put them in timeout from here from StreamYard. So yes, I did that.
There we go.
So,
boom.
Yeah, well, but like so yeah, this was a great stream. Thanks for coming on such a quick notice.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me.
I was trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to do because I didn't really want to do episodes where we talked about the entire episode because this was a episode. This is a stream about Scotty. So I really loved the conversation that we had going. It felt very natural, and I want to do that. I want to do that again. So, but yeah, everybody, thanks for joining this 7th episode of Trekporeal. The next Trekporeal I want to do is with another guest I've been talking to him on Twitter. He did a audio drama of his own version of season 8 of Voyager, So we're, like what he did and what he worked on. So I have to listen to it, and we're going to talk about this. That's going to be the next Trekporeal. So it's going to be different. It's not going to be the same. It's not going to be your typical top 5 Watch Mojo type of episodes like I've been doing lately. So yep. Leia Rose, Nona Moss, and thanks to Tad That Shouldn't Be. Cool show. So you have any final things you want to say before we
Well, again, thank you so much for having me on here. It was a lot of fun. It was great talking about Jimmy Doings, about Scott. I mean, again, one of my favorite characters. It should be everybody's favorite characters, but new Trek doesn't understand that at all. But
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I mean, they wouldn't like, obviously if they watched and saw this type of talent on there, it's like, how can you not? How can you have what we have today compared to this and all across the board? People out there watch the old shows. Honestly, that's what I have to sit back and say. If you say you are a Star Trek fan and all you're watching is space travels from Paramount, you're not a fan. You should come back and watch some of these original ones and see why we love it. And this is one of the reasons why. James Doohan, a great actor, great man.
I agree. And by the way, do you know this guy? Do you know who this guy is right here? Says,
yeah.
I don't know who that is. It's just some
he's some troublemaker I was talking with earlier.
Yeah. He's a young Pokemon. So, but one thing I did want to say before we get off, have you ever seen Trekkies, the documentary that came out in the late 90s?
Bits and pieces of it. That's the one with Denise Crosby.
Right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so one of the last things we see DeForest Kelley. We see DeForest Kelley talking in one of his last appearances ever. But there was the one that really stuck out to me was the one with James Doohan. He talks about experiences meeting fans, and there was one fan that I forget exactly what the circumstances were. One fan threatened to commit suicide. Mm-hmm. And he literally, he told that fan to not commit suicide, and if you want to come to a convention, come see me and talk to me. Mm-hmm. And we find out that this individual did what he said. She didn't. I don't know if it was a woman or a man, but they did. I think it was a woman, mm-hmm. And she did not. She not only did not commit suicide, she went and met him. They talked, and she ended up going on to becoming very successful. She ended up becoming an engineer because of James Doohan, because of Scotty's character. So I mean, one thing that people fail to understand is there's a lot of reason why a lot of fans are super duper critical of how new Trek is today is because of how good the original shows used to be and how life changing it was for a lot of people. And like especially this woman that her life was saved by James Doohan. So James Doohan is a lifesaver. He's not just an engineer. He saved a life. And it's this is one thing I want, and he said this in the documentary. I want to reiterate it here. Like he's a hero. He's not only a war hero, but he saved a life as an older man. He was in I think it was in the 80s or 90s. So yeah. So this James Doohan is freaking awesome.
Yes. I mean,
So
you can't really. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be cruel, but I can't imagine any of these cast members of these shows going out of their way like that. Like he did.
They all they do is they signal. They like to signal. They like to signal and be outrageous about certain things that are going on, and that's it. And they get likes and retweets.
Exactly. And all these people were giants and should be remembered. Jim Doohan should be remembered. Of course, it's great to see Chris Doohan continuing, how he continued on afterwards, doing it with Star Trek Continues. That spirit, keeping it alive. And of course, I wish he was still around. And I remember one thing he sat back and said, I don't know if I'm familiar. I'm unfamiliar. But I remember he sat back and said something, not long before his death or whatever, but he was saying that he wished he could do King Lear, but at the time, that's when his memory was having issues. He said, unfortunately, I can't remember the lines. It would have been great to have seen him in King Lear.
How sharper than the serpent's tooth than to have a thankless child. You know what's a great if have you ever there's a great movie that I saw that's based on King Lear. It's a Kurosawa movie. It's called Ran. R-A-N. Have you ever seen it?
No, I haven't, but I've heard of it.
It's like there's a shot of the main character. I forget his name. He was the villain in Yojimbo, and he plays the king. And there's a shot of like arrows flying right past his face like this. It's ridiculous. Like the level of shot, the level of detail, the shots that were made were incredible in this movie. Of course, they made King Lear into more. Obviously, it's more they made it into Japan. They made it set in Japan. Obviously, different character names, but it was same thing. Same thing with Throne of Blood. Like Kurosawa basically took Shakespearean tales and made them Japanese. They put them in a Japanese period.
Nothing wrong with that.
Edo type of thing. So yeah. But Ron is a great movie. It came out in the 80s. It was something I think I don't know if that was the movie that George Lucas and Spielberg helped finance or produce or something, but
it was Kurosawa's last movie that they financed. If that was his last movie, then that would have been it.
I don't know. I'm not sure because I think he made another one in the 90s and then he passed away, I think, in the late 90s. Same time that Trekkies came out, I believe.
Yeah. So, I mean, Star Trek, the original series, shouldn't be anything mocked at where they sit back and say it's cardboard sets and this and that. It's like, get that away. It's the stories. And yeah, there's turkey stories in there. Every show has a turkey story. But overall, we wouldn't have what we had if it wasn't for, Shatner, Nimoy, Kelly, Doohan. I mean, boom. And of course, obviously Takai, Koenig, and Nichols.
Yeah.
But like I said, and no offense to Nichols and Takai and Koenig, of that background group, he was the one that shined the most, and that's why he was going to be getting that star treatment for the fourth season if they would have done it. And why they relied so much on him for those voices for the animated shows.
Yeah. So yeah, the Tad That Shouldn't Be says Toshiro Mifune. It wasn't him and Ron, but yeah, he was the biggest actor in Japan. Like he was in almost every Kurosawa movie. Heck, George Lucas asked him to be Darth Vader at one point in Star Wars.
Really?
Yes. He said no. So, but yeah, that would have been cool. But it was actually the actor that plays the King Lear like character. His name is Tatsuya Nakadai. He was the villain. He was the villain in Yojimbo, and he was the main protagonist in the Human Condition trilogy, which is about Japan Japan during World War II and China. So
Okay.
it's an epic trilogy. It's a very tragic trilogy, but it's a very epic trilogy too. So this was like late 50s. So,
And there's
but yeah, so that's what I
still
was thinking of.
a lot of tension between Japan and China even to this day. Sadly.
Yeah, and Korea and North Korea. So
Hmm. And
so
a lot of people don't realize too that Gene Roddenberry was a big.
yeah,
I don't know.
he had his honeymoon with
They,
Major Barrett right after the show in Japan.
yeah, they had a Shinto wedding ceremony. So
Shinto,
he
yeah.
was
So he was
he was
like compared to everyone else in Japan, he was a freaking giant because I think Roddenberry was like 6'2". He's a really tall guy. He's a big
Well, you
dude.
got some tall Japanese people. I tell you what, over there, it's amazing. But what was it? I think the joke was Star Trek was known as Sulu, Captain Sulu or whatever over Japan because you had him in there. Oh, the Red Baron. Oh, I
Yeah,
guess I'm the Red Baron.
apparently you're the Red Baron. I didn't. How many pilots did you take down?
80.
So I have to ask you, what's it like taking on Snoopy?
I hate that dog. That son of a bitch.
Red Baron.
Yeah.
And the
Red.
fun fact, I don't know if you're ever familiar with Gundam, but the one of the characters, Char Aznable, the Red Comet, is based off of the Red Baron from
Yeah.
World War One. So, fun fact.
When I was growing up, well, fun fact for me here, when I was growing up, I was just obsessed with the Red Baron. Baron Manfred von Richthofen. Of course, he had his brother Lothar von Richthofen, who flew a plane that was kind of similar, reddish, but it had different colors. Uh, Most of his kills that he did was actually in an Albatross. It was only at the very end he had the famous triplane,
Mm-hmm.
and that he had there. But when I was growing up, I used to do what they called quarter midget racing. So it was like quarter midget size cars was for the kids, and we were doing that in Elko, Minnesota. And I wanted my car done up as red and with the Red Baron motif. So there was stuff on there like the Iron Cross. No, that's not Nazi. So you had that and some images of like cartoon characters of the Red Baron and all that. So that car number 4. So I was riding around as the Red Baron out there on with the race. That's how obsessed I was with the mystique of Baron Manfred von Richthofen.
I watched Dankula's Mad Lads video about the Red Baron, and I learned a lot from that video. Like I had no idea that the enemy the enemy respected him. Like the British, like the Royal Air Force, they respected the Red Baron, and I think they were the ones, like he got shot down. I think they were the ones that brought the body home. I think, didn't they?
Right. Well, they had they couldn't bring, but they gave him full military funeral on their side. And actually,
Yeah.
Manfred Richthofen actually was reburied about 4 times. Of course, he had that one. Then they exhumed him. They went to their tomb. Then another one in his final spot that he had there. I think for a while his tomb was on the other side of the wall during the Cold War. So, yeah, he finally did get his final resting place. Many people respected him. It was kind of a last honorable war and the first really getting into really nasty with the obviously with the gas and all that. But these guys were literally knights. I mean, the Red Richthofen was a cavalry man that went through the airplanes, and they had that type of thing. We're going out and we're fighting, but hey,
It was like a game. It was like a game.
Right.
Whoever won, even when they lost, they respected the fact that he won. And it's like good game, even though I'm dead, even though your opponent is dead. But that's kind of how I viewed the attitude.
Are shot down because there were survivors, and Richthofen would actually go and visit survivors from the crashes. And not to whatever, but just like it was the honorable thing. I'll come and meet you at the hospital or whatever. And he would do that, and he was a very, his brother Lothar was a little more bloodthirsty. When people were sitting back saying some of the nasty things that Richthofen was doing, they had the wrong Richthofen. because his brother up there. Now, another thing is the person, not the immediate successor of the Flying Circus, Richtofer's Flying Circus, but the one after that was Heinrich Himmler.
Yeah, the SS
And
guy.
no, not Heinrich Himmler. No, Hermann Goering. Sorry, Hermann Goering,
Oh.
the head of the Luftwaffe.
I was like, okay.
Okay, I got the wrong one. I went with the
Goering.
chicken
You said Goering, Herman Goering.
Yeah,
Goering.
Yeah, Hermann
Okay.
Goering actually took over the Flying Circus eventually. Of course,
Yeah.
he became the head of the Luftwaffe and the second
Yeah.
in charge of the Reich.
Yeah.
One of the people that was also flying in there, and the first one that known to have a swastika on their plane, was a man by the name of Werner Voss. Not only did he have the swastika on there, he also had what the SS dead head, but of course he didn't have that back in the day. That was a Hussar symbol because the man was part of the Hussars. And of course, the swastika goes back long ages as a good luck charm, whatever, victory charm. It had nothing to do with what that little Austrian perverted it into.
The swastika came from China, if I remember correctly.
It came from everywhere.
It came from Asia.
You have the American Indians had it.
Yeah.
The Nordics had it. Of course, Indians from India, Japanese, Chinese. You'll find this symbol in both ways. They sit back and say, well, it was twisted. No, you find it both ways in all these cultures. It's amazing how you find this in all these cultures. In Nordic, it's Thor's hammers being thrown. Kind of a symbol. But the funny thing is, Werner Voss was the second Jew to be part of the Hussars and the first officer that they had in the Hussars. So you had this Jewish pilot flying around with a swastika on his plane and the death's head. Talk about irony. That at this time these didn't mean that, but what happened 20 years later when you had the first the Great War Part 2 come out. So these are some of the things when you got into the history on this, like it's amazing what you had on there.
I first actually heard about the fact that the swastika originated earlier because of, believe it or not, movies like the Da Vinci Code.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Hanks is giving a lecture. He's talking about like symbols and all that. So that's where I first learned that. So that's why I kind of had an idea that it was obviously wasn't. It didn't originate in Germany.
Right. It goes back thousands of years, and it's amazing how it permeated into the crowd. In fact, it was one of the early Christian symbols. It was the broken cross, and which of course is what the Germans call it, the Haken, how you pronounce it, but broken cross. So that and the Exodus were the early symbols, and of course the Exodus, everybody remembers now, but people don't know that. So it's a symbol that should be brought back for what it really was, and try to get rid of that horrible stigma that little Austrian ruined. Because a lot of people still use that symbol today. And if you see it, don't flip out. Anybody out there that sees it and you flip out, don't. Start learning history. Start learning that there's a bigger world than what's in your bubble. True story.
I agree.
True story. True story. I know we're going to be going here, but true story. My dad was part of with the rendezvousers and the mountain men reenactments. Of course, he had the American Indians out there with their stuff, and one of the guys had his teepee there, and on the teepee were swastikas, right? Just like if you go those teepee hotels on Route 66, that's so famous. They used to have that on there too, long before anything doing with that little Austrian. They had to take it off because of the war. Well, some guy.
I like how you say that little. I like how you refer to it as a little Austrian. That's what I should do from now on. That little Austrian.
And some nut came onto the rendezvous site there and saw that and started threatening to burn down that teepee because of those hate symbols. Well, they didn't realize that the gentleman, the American Indian that was part of that, was this big, huge guy with muscles, and he basically sat back and give it a try. Everybody was going to skin this guy if he tried to do anything with it. And it's like, learn your history. This is our symbol from way back.
Yeah.
So
exactly. It's just ignorance.
Yeah, it's ignorant. It's worse than ignorance because you don't want to know. You're flying off the handle, and so that's the one thing I have to sit back and say. If you see it, find out what it's all about, because more than likely 99%.
Or just ask, why do you ask why do you guys have a swastika? Well, it's this. Then they'll explain. this predates your swastika. That, you know, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes you kind of wonder how far how far denazification will go, because that's what they did right after the war, to the point where they destroyed every, you know, symbol that looked like, you know, swastika or anything that resembled the Nazi party.
Right.
And people forget that, you know, like, they didn't come up with this stuff on their own. They stole from others.
Or they grabbed from what they already had before. Like I said, the SS, the skull and crossbone, that was Hessar. That was a different, it came from a different thing. So there, you know, history is not an easy thing. You know, people would sit back and say that, only the victors win. You know, shut up. You're an idiot, moron. We're done talking with you, because obviously you don't have two brain cells to rub together. History is a hard thing. It takes sometimes months, years, sometimes decades to get an actual story out of it, and you have to study. And it is a serious thing. I'm kind of an armchair historian myself, with several different forms of eras, it's hard.
Yeah, don't always depend on one single source, because you have to think about where that information's coming from.
Right. I read a book. Bravo.
Like, I mean, I don't think there's a whole lot of autobiographies of you know, Julius Caesar or anybody else. So you have to really know where to look, you know, and hopefully things are preserved. That's one concern, is that the way people act now, you kind of wonder if documents will be preserved at all.
Well, yeah, I mean, you go through that throughout the ages, where they want to get rid of something. I mean, look at what we have here, and this is one of the reasons why I'm fighting here. I don't call myself a pulp culture warrior or anything like that, because I'm not really up on the pulp culture of today. But it's these things. These are our mythologies. These are our fairy tales. These are our fables. These are very important stories that we have, whether it be Star Trek, Star Wars, all these things that were coming forward. Each one had their own universe. Each one had their own form of storytelling. The morons that we have now don't understand that. They just go in there, and it's like a playground. We're going to throw some excrement on the wall, see if it sticks, and we're going to go at it. And they don't understand what this is about. They don't understand what storytelling is. They don't understand what being a hero. Chris Gore of Film Threat, he said it perfectly fine, and I agree with it. You know, even before that, when Han Solo was killed, right, and he fell.
You don't
do that.
That's how a villain dies.
That is a villain's death. Every time, you know, I just watched Dread the other day again. I love that film, by the way. And at the end, Mama gets tossed from the top,
Cersei,
slow-mo, and going down. It's like, there you go. And I could go into a little bit more with that one. I love that movie. I love Dread. I love Judge Dredd in general. But again, the hero fell. Anyone sits back and says, well, Randolph fell. No, he did not fall to his death. They fell down to a battlefield, and he kicked the Balrog's ass. Then he died.
Yeah, exactly. And what's funny was I brought this up during our stream on your channel. So the same. That's why I was like, this way. If we talked about this before, yes, we have. I was just listening to it last night. So yeah.
Oh yeah. So yeah, you know exactly. Yeah. So.
Well, I reacted to it. It was like I don't know what it was, but it was like a physical reaction when I saw that in the theater with Han Solo. I was like, I just got mad. I was like, he's not going to fall, is he? Don't make him fall. Don't make him fall. He fell. I was like,
right. You don't do that. I mean, just take a look at, I know, who was it that didn't like Star Trek 3, but think of the end of Star Trek 3. I have had enough of you. And there goes Crew. Yeah.
I mean,
again, the bad guy falls to his death.
Emperor Palpatine. Another great example, Emperor Palpatine or Skeletor in the Masters of the Universe. But I think he survived that.
He survived.
He survived.
They're going to do a sequel. They were going to do a sequel.
They were going to do a sequel. Did they? Okay, but yeah, that's what Joker and Batman '89. Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's down there. Ha 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 ha. The whole thing is still ha ha-ing as the camera's coming down on the body.
He died with a smile. He died with a grin. That's Joker for you.
And see, these people don't have those nuances. They have to sit back and study this, and this is why we all fight. And this is the important thing, and to keep this alive. Star Trek 3, like I said, for its faults, had some great moments. Star Trek is great. Mythology is great. Fable is great.
Yeah.
A fairy tale. And I know when I say fairy tale, I'm not talking about the Disney. I'm talking about, if you take a look at the old fairy tales, they were grim. I mean, there's a reason why you had the brother Grimm's doing it. And, even Hans Christian Andersen, The Little Mermaid did not end well in his stories. Not like Disney. There is a moral element, how to live, the importance of being human in all this. And they've lost that. And I find that that's what's the important thing about this.
That's what I mean. That's what appealed. That's how Star Trek, and it's the human elements, the human condition. You're showing the human condition. Like
Right.
It's just the human element that made Star Trek, appeal to so many people. So,
and you had that with Star Wars too. You had that with Doctor Who too.
Yeah.
These stories had those elements. And yeah, sure, the show might not have had great special effects or something like that, but the story is what you were going for. And that's what's important. What are they telling? And they're not necessarily browbeating you or insulting you, but they're making you think.
Mm-hmm. And that's how we're going to conclude this stream. So this was thank you so much. It was a great conversation. I loved every second of it.
Well, thank you so much.
I definitely want to have you. Definitely want to have you on again for another stream like this. We'll have to figure out what that is. But I have so many. This is like, once again, this is I designed these to fit the guests. Whatever the guest really likes, that way we can get into a conversation. So.
Well, there's a lot of things about Star Trek I love.
Exactly. And like you said, I asked you, you said McCoy or Scotty. So I went with Scotty. I thought Scotty, awesome. I just thought of like some of the great moments. I was like, let's do that. So, and
we should do one on the ships.
Yeah, eventually. Yeah, we should. I'll have to find out. I'll have to figure out, because I think I might bring, if we do that, I might have to bring another guest, because I know there's a lot of people that want to do ships. So I'll have to figure this one out. It's tough being a content creator.
It is, isn't it?
Figure out how to design streams, who to bring on, what to talk about.
Exactly.
I'm still learning, but I feel it's more enjoyable to make this more of a conversational based thing than instead of just me going, just me being stiff about it like I've been in the previous one. So, but yeah, that's it. That's Trekporeal number 7 in a nutshell. Remember, everybody, the link is below. Subscribe to Baron Orman Tagge. He just hit 100, and you're at 104 subs, if I remember correctly.
104, 105, something like that. Yeah.
So let's get him to let's get him up there. Let's get him to.
And I promise I'm going to get some more
110.
content on there. I'll get you. I'm going to get some more content on there. So I've been in a slump, but I'm ready to go now.
So is there anything you want to is there anything else you want to plug? Any streams coming up?
Well, hopefully, if I see something here, 5:15 Central Standard Time, which is not too far away, we should be having the Kings, but I haven't seen anything from my buddy 24 yet. Of course, Tuesday, I do the Tuesday Night Trek with Captain Paul. I think that's 8 o'clock Central Standard Time.
I got to catch up on that. I have to catch up on that again. Where are you guys at in
I don't know.
Season 4?
Yeah, we're season 4. I missed the last episode. Then Paul didn't have an episode last week, so I'll have to ask him on that one.
Yeah, I've been kind of absent. I've been kind of lazy on that, so
yeah,
I'll do better. Then, Paul. I'll do better.
I have my open mic night Wednesday at 9 o'clock Central Standard Time. That's where I open the mic up. I put the StreamYards in the chat and say, anybody wants to come on, let's do it. Let's have fun. Let's have talk. I do that every last Wednesday of the month. And then, of course, with Gary and Keith on Saturday morning, I do the Saturday morning fun time show at the Pulp Culture Minefield. And I try to get a word in wise, but Gary's kind of hard. He's got a lot to say.
Well, I had you and Keith on for Forbidden Planet. You guys just took over. The stream. You guys practically ran the stream. I was just listening the whole time.
Yeah. Keith kind of felt bad afterwards. Like, well, I don't know. That's what he gets for putting us on there. Keith's a great guy. I love him.
Well, it looks like I sacrificed a sub for you, Baron. Apparently, no one wants to. I can sub from Trekporeal, so I can sub to so I can sub to the Baron. So looks like being a YouTuber has its price. So
Sorry about
but
that, man.
anything? Is there anything else you want to plug away?
That's
Or
about it. That's about
okay,
it. I mean, uh, it's amazing. Things do pop up now and then. For some people want me on their streams. I don't know why.
I think it's because of your charm, your unmitigating charm. So. For me, in my case, I am going to. What's funny is I'm actually going to be speaking at what's the name of that convention? That one Chicago convention that they're in a couple weeks. So I'm going to be on with Nick Weiser. Ord's Board's going to be hosting it. We're going to be doing a panel at what's the name of that convention? Fan Expo. So I'm gonna be at the convention, and we're gonna be talking about content creation. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. So I didn't get to go to Dallas like everyone else did. I would have loved to go to Dallas because there's so many people I wanted to meet there. So, but yeah, I'm gonna be on a panel, and I don't know if it's gonna be streamed. I'll have to let you guys know if it is.
That'd be great.
If it not, then I'll have to share it some way. But yeah, I'll be on with a few other content creators we all love, and we'll be talking about. That'll be in 2 weeks, so they'll be 2 weeks from yesterday. So it'll be the Saturday, July 9th, I believe. July 9th. So stay tuned for that. This week, Orville, season 3, episode 5, after show. Will be me and Mike, and if Spock can make it, Spock, and we have another guest. We have a couple of guests, so I'll keep you apprised on that. And
I think Spock's on Ponfar.
Spock's on Ponfar. Yeah, he probably is on Ponfar. He is Pacific time, so nothing to do with Pacific 414. What's funny is Pacific 414 is actually East Coast, not Pacific
I know.
Time.
He lies. He lies.
I think he should change his name to Atlantic 414. Just saying. I'm gonna get a lot of crap for that. But yeah, but the Orville's I'm gonna be doing an Orville stream on Wednesday, or technically Thursday morning at midnight. So if you're watching the episode the moment it drops on Hulu, well, I'll be doing the after show right after the episode's over. So come by for that. And this Friday, I will be doing a stream with a few other people: Salty, Texas C, Wakizashi Tea House, and Prophet of the Dragon. We're going to be talking about the final 2 episodes, the volume 2 of Stranger Things, volume 2, season 4, volume 2. So we can't wait to see what happens, how this season ends, and how it will carry into the final season of the series ultimately. So yeah, and hopefully, yeah, I'm a busy guy. Yeah, there's a lot of good content. There's a lot of good shows out there. Better Call Saul is going to come back in a few weeks. Is going to come back in 3 weeks. I can't wait. There's a lot of good shows. I'm really happy. And looks like, oh my God, we have Orville Nation here. Orville Nation says, nice stream. Well, thanks, Orville Nation. Thanks for coming by. Because of Orville Nation's recommendation, I need to see For All Mankind. Everyone's been talking. A few people have been talking about For All Mankind. Like a lot of people that also do Better Call Saul content also talk about For All Mankind. So I have to check that out too. So that's probably the other show I want to watch. Other than that, everybody, stay Nerdporeal. May the wings of Nerdporeals carry you to the next Trekporeal, hopefully in a week or 2. I'll figure that one out. Other than that, everybody, live long and prosper, infinite diversity and infinite combinations. Take care.